You are not ready for today's episode because it's about to change the way you think about business and legacy. You know, I love bringing on guests who don't just play the game, but change it entirely. And today's guest, he's operating on a whole different level. Omar Ali is a visionary entrepreneur, community leader, and philanthropist with over 2 decades of experience in federal construction. His portfolio includes monumental projects like U.S. embassies in Israel, Baghdad, London, and beyond. As the president of international and domestic affairs at Steel Fabrication Exponents and AIM Steel International Corporation, he's been instrumental in shaping infrastructures globally. But here's what truly sets him apart. Omar doesn't just think about the next 5 or 10 years. He has a 300-year plan. Yes, 300 years. That kind of long term thinking is rare. And today we're unpacking what that means, how you can apply it to your own business, and why the most successful entrepreneurs think far beyond their own life. Walmart, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate you allowing me to come on the show. It means a lot. I've been a fan of the show since you guys started. You're doing wonderful, great things by highlighting the insights to entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much. Omar, did you always know you were going to be an entrepreneur? Or was there a defining moment that put you on this?
I have always known that I was going to be an entrepreneur because of my father. You may have heard me tell the brief story about how my father raised me. So we all grew up with the Cosby Show, of course. At the time that the Cosby Show was on, I thought, you know what, I'm going to be a doctor like Bill Cosby. My father said, you can't be a doctor. And I thought about Claire, she was an attorney. He said, can't be an attorney. And so I was like, Dad, you tried to go to the Olympics. I'm going to play a sport, but you can't play a sport. So my father said, I give you a year to think about it, and I'm going to ask you on your 12th birthday. So a year goes by. He said, did you figure it out, son? I was like, no, sir. He was like, Omar, why don't you own the hospital? Why don't you own the law firm or own your own sports team? He said, that is the way that you need to go. And it never dawned on me like, wait a second, my father is a businessman. He's absolutely right. So from that particular point forward, I started carrying a briefcase in the neighborhood. I was the only kid with a briefcase. It was full of toys, but I called myself a businessman.
Yes, that's awesome, Omar. Most entrepreneurs think about the
Mhm.
next year, maybe the next five, but a 300-year plan, where did that come from?
It came from my father. We talk about legacy, but many people don't understand what legacy is. People can't understand and see legacy past their immediate household. And so my father put a plan together and said, we're going to make things easier for generations. It's not just about my kids, it's about their kids and their kids for many years to come. And to give you an example, when I graduated college, I ended up starting my business around 24 years old. Tremendous help start because I worked out of my father's office, didn't have an overhead, utilized his particular resources. That got a jump start. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have not been able to achieve as much and as quickly as I did. And we have to think about that for generations to come. And it humbles you down tremendously to let you know it's just not about yourself.
Fantastic. And this leads into my next question very well. You mentor a lot of minority owned businesses trying to land their first government contract. What is the biggest mistake you see people making?
Yeah, so you're 100% right. So much so that we created our own consulting firm called Stratos Forge. We did that because we got tired of seeing online people claiming to be experts and, excuse my language, didn't have a pot to piss in.
Yeah.
They did not have what we thought, what most people would call true success and track record. So I started the consulting company. And one of the biggest problems that we see that most people want to do, they want to grow too fast. They don't know how to scale back in order to scale more. I have a friend of mine who wanted to do a $100 million development. That's too big. By the time you get to the point that you want to do that and achieve that, years have went by and you're going to be still in the same place. So the biggest advice I would tell someone, take small steps. and do not be afraid to fail. My first two business failed twice. Do not be afraid to fail. It happens. You just pick up and you start easy and start over.
You've built multiple companies and taken them globally. What's the best advice you have for scaling without losing your core mission?
Recon, I would say. Most people, they have an idea and they jump right into it. You have to do research after research to understand the markets you're getting into, understand your competition, understand your threats, and understand if you're going to move into another market, how to do that successfully. And you just can't wake up with an idea. Everyone has a great idea. You have to put that idea to theory and put it to test before you actually start on it. And so that has always been my approach. When we purchased the steel fabrication facility in Tecate, Mexico, mind you, I had never been to Mexico, period. We did research. Where can we acquire a new plant because things are going well? We found a list of structural steel fabricators that we thought that we can come down and make an offer and purchase. And we interviewed every last one of them. But before we did that, we studied the market tremendously. We understood every cost. We understood the personnel. We understood how we're going to get back and forth across the border. So recon is always needed.
Wow. So lots of preparation, not a lot of
Mm.
spontaneity
It's,
in successful
it's
businesses, right?
not. And then in addition to that, you can always use government resources. A prime example, we reached out to the Department of Commerce because we wanted to move into Dubai. And so we told the Department of Commerce we have a list of companies that we want to do work for. Is it okay for work for us to approach these particular companies? One of the companies on the list was a company called Root Steel, who was owned by Arabian Roots. And then Arabian Roots was owned by the Saudi bin Laden family. And the Saudi bin Laden family does close to, or they did close to 100 billion a year. And so the US government said, absolutely, all of these companies are okay to work with. So we created a joint venture.
Wow.
Again, that was Recon. And so before you knew it, we was operating out of Dubai with a joint venture, although we own the plant in Tecate, Mexico, 100%. But now that gave us the gateway to start supplying our products, our structural steel into Africa and the Middle East.
Wow. That is like, I would never have thought of doing that. You
Mm.
checked who are these companies okay to work for, and then you found an amazing
Yeah.
company as a result of. All right. Omar, let's get really practical. I'm going to fire off a few situations, and I want you to give one quick, powerful tip for each.
Okay.
So, a business owner is struggling to grow. What's the first thing they should do?
If you're struggling to grow, the first thing that you should do is evaluate your return on investment and looking to see why your return on investment is not great. And usually that would guide you in the next market.
Okay. Someone wants to pivot industries but feels stuck. What's their next move?
They got to get over that. If they feel stuck, if we're talking about stuck mentally, that's a different thing. But if they feel stuck because they don't know how to get into that industry, again, it comes back to studying the market, doing recon to see how to get into that new market.
So it's a matter of knowledge, discovery, and not mind,
Yes,
right?
and tenacity, you cannot be afraid to do it. Do not be afraid at all.
An entrepreneur wants to build relationships with government agencies. What's step number one?
People put so much emphasis on this. Pick up the phone. It's really is that simple. Pick up the phone and call them. You will be amazed at the relationship that the government will be willing to foster. There's no secret sauce to that. Every relationship that we've had, I've picked up the phone and just had a general conversation, introduced myself to them, and fostered that relationship.
Wow.
Mm.
I thought that doesn't work
No,
anymore. I
no.
thought you didn't even pick up phones anymore.
So when you think about it, the best way to foster a relationship is no different when you're dating someone. You have to get to know them. It's just that simple. Once they know you, it becomes a little more difficult for them not to want to help you or to say no to you.
Interesting. I've heard that from Sarah Blakely.
Mhm.
She is the founder of Sphinx, and she said she just called Neiman Marcus. Like
Yes.
she called. And every time I hear entrepreneurs say, "I just called," I'm like, "Wow,
Yeah.
perfect." As a small business wants to be recession proof,
Mm.
what is your best strategy?
If you want to be recession proof, some industries, it's just you can't be recession proof. But the best way to be recession proof is essential products or essential services. We know that you're going to always need them. Let's take COVID. There are certain things, no matter what, that we still had to utilize during that. I mentioned to you about a viral post that I did talking about Target, explaining to minorities that we need to do essential products. An essential product could be something simple as t-shirts, socks, underwear, paper, pencil, dog food, laundry detergent, all of the stuff that we would consider behind the scenes, but it's universal. And no matter what, you're going to need those items.
And I remember because this comes from one of the speeches that I've heard you give at the Flourish Media Conference. You mentioned how important it is to make a product for everyone,
Yes.
not just for sectors. I
Yes.
remember. I remember
Absolutely.
that.
You want to capture everyone dollars. That's what the main goal is.
All right. Someone wants to start thinking bigger, but doesn't know how. What's the first shift they should make?
Reading. Reading. So as entrepreneurs, we all get stuck in a loop, for the lack of words. But the more you read and the more exposure you get, it's easy to find ways and patterns to come out of that. I can't tell you how successful I've been by reading a book. One of my favorite books is The Art of Negotiation by Herb Cohen.
I'm going to
And
write it down.
yeah,
I'm going to buy it right after this podcast.
and then second to that is The Art of War, to where I apply military tactics to operating a business.
Wow. I learned of that book, The Art of War, but
Yes.
the negotiation book definitely gonna be something I need to read. Yeah. All right, Omar, you've dropped so much wisdom today. If you could leave our listeners with just one piece of advice about business, leadership, or life, what would it be?
When I was younger, I used to pursue profit. Everyone wants to make profit, and I understand that. But the older I got, that became purpose. And when you have a purpose, the profits are going to always be there. So find a purpose for your business, find a purpose in life, and that will drive you much more than chasing profits. And it's hard to understand that concept. And you cannot be afraid to fail. You cannot be afraid to try again. And more importantly, you cannot do it alone. It's very few people who are truly self made. And if you think you're self made, if you want to be self made, you're not going to make it. You need help, you need support, and you need luck. No matter what somebody tell you, luck is a big part of business.
Wow, that's very insightful. And where can people connect with you?
Please, if you want to find, go to my website, which is omar-ali.com, or follow me on social media. My wife finally forced me to get on the social media. So I'm a year on Instagram. But follow me at Omar Ali _ OAA.
Perfect. That was included in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
All right, my friends. If this conversation fired you up, hit subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode. Keep showing up. Thank you so much, Omar, for being here. I love your stories. I love everything that you got to share. Keep leveling up, everybody, and always stay unstoppable.
Thank you.